Hello there. Happy World Environment Day, Saanvi.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here today.
Thank you. For our viewers, hi, my name is Prasad Jaladi. I am the founder and chief facilitator of Suraksha, an all-volunteer run organization based out of Austin with a global focus. Saanvi is one of our lead volunteer from US. He lives in Dallas, and I have to say something. Saanvi is the only one person from our volunteer group who is directly working with the environment. And she's going to tell her story in her own words. Welcome to our conversation today, Samvi. I'm excited. So please tell our viewers about yourself in 2 minutes before we proceed further.
Yeah, so my story, I would say, began very simple. My mom really liked being outdoors, and because of that, from a young age, she started taking my brother and I to national parks. And my first national park I visited was Mammoth Caves National Park. And although I wasn't as accustomed to the outdoors back then, I think back then I would have much rather just been on my iPad in my car. But slowly, as she started taking me outdoors more, I started realizing the value of the outdoors. I started enjoying the outdoors, and I realized all the benefits I was gaining from the outdoors, not only for my body, for my mental health, my physical health, but also simple stuff like family bonding and getting to spend time with my brother without any distractions, and my mother and my father, and having those conversations out in trails all started to make such a big difference in my life. And once I came home, I realized that there were so many kids around me who were not as privileged as me and who didn't have parents who were willing to take them across states and a lot of times across the country, and to different continents as well to visit these amazing wonders on our planet. And I wanted to make sure that those kids could also experience the outdoors and also benefit because the outdoors are for everyone. And so I started figuring out little ways to get kids outdoors, whether it was to taking them on little hikes in the morning or figuring out ways to build gardens in their schools and getting them to interact with how important pollinators are for our community and just introducing the environment in little ways to them and making it a fun experience so they themselves can grow that bond with the environment that I did. And through that, I was able to start my very own project, Nature Worthy, which is where we encourage kids from environmentally disadvantaged areas to get outdoors, and we help facilitate that. And through Project Nature Worthy, I was able to start working with larger organizations like the Sierra Club and National Park Trust. And with those organizations, I was able to lobby in Congress and at the Capitol and really work on important legislation that would encourage more kids to get outdoors, to help build more playgrounds and areas where kids can get the outdoor time that they all deserve, while also being safe and protected at the same time. And with working with those organizations, I've not only been able to help get kids outdoors legislatively, but also been able to expand my reach with my organization as well.
Wonderful. I have to put you on spot on three things. I will do it in a sequential way. So first thing is, why did you choose Suraksha to work with? Did you find any difference than other organizations? What made you to take this session to support Suraksha?
Well, first of all, I would say that Suraksha is an organization I came upon, and it's very different from the other organizations I work with in the sense that it helps with the UN goals and it helps trying to achieve those. And the other organizations I work with kind of just help with the environmental issues going on in the US and helping getting children outdoors. But I love that Suraksha kind of has like a world capacity to it where it works on getting kids, getting adults, figuring out different solutions, not only to one issue, which is, enough kids are not spending time outdoors, but with plastic pollution, with air pollution, with oil issues, and all these other issues that also contribute to climate change and all the disasters that our planet is facing. And I wanted to make sure that I was also contributing not only at home in Texas, but I was also trying to make a difference in the world as well. And the UN has a very, I would say, very distinct list of guidelines and goals that they want to reach. And working with the organization that has such a clear pathway on trying to reach those goals and trying to achieve them. And not only has one pathway of trying to reach those goals, but has different initiatives and different ways that they're actively trying to work on those goals by hosting webinars, by hosting different events all around the world, and also by engaging youth like me. I really felt that it was important to recognize those goals that the UN set for us and really try to achieve them. And I saw that's what you guys were trying to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your kindness. We are, we are here because of you and other team members. I'm just a facilitator, as you know me. So all the credit goes to you, all our volunteers, especially to you too, also directly working with the environment and safeguarding the environment at the same time. You explained a bit earlier, but I would like to pick your mind more onto that. And what is in there, beside the family support and other things? So could you say a few things about that?
Yeah. So I would say, first of all, in your daily life, there's so many things going on. Maybe for me, there's not as much going on because I'm just a student. So all I have to worry about is school, friends, and, spending time at home. But even for me as a student, since that's all I've experienced, it seems like a lot for me. And for everyone has such busy lives and there's so much things going on. But when you get out onto the trail, when you get onto the national park, you don't have any service. Usually, when you're on these trails, you don't have internet, you don't have any other way to really communicate with other people. So it cuts off all the distractions and all the busyness of your life. And it's really a time period for you to just focus on yourself, focus on growing yourself, and really think through your life and just have that introspection, that important time for introspection, and that have that peace to yourself. And that's one thing that I really enjoy. Another thing that I enjoy about hiking, especially, is the challenge that it poses. It not only allows me to get past physical barriers with my body, if my body is overexerting itself and pushing past that, but also mental barriers, which I find to be really helpful, not only while hiking, but also helping with my own self-worth and after I go on a trail and helping me push. When I push past those mental barriers, that's when I realize how much my mind can really handle and how much I really can do. For example, I was hiking Kala Pathar, which is in the Kumbh region in Nepal, which is right next to Mount Everest. And I remember it was so cold outside, and my hands and feet were on like the brink of frostbite. So it felt like needles were poking into my hands and feet.
Hmm.
But I kept going and I climbed the entire mountain. And after I got to the end, the amount of happiness and the amount of, you know, the joyousness I felt knowing that I had pushed past that mental barrier, the voice in my head that was telling me that you can't do this, you can't do this, you need to stop. There's no way you can finish this hike. And the fact that I was able to push past that voice in my head showed me that if I really put my mind to it, I can truly achieve anything. And I think those lessons not only help me on the trail, but when I come back home, they help me face all sorts of issues in my life when I come across. And knowing that I can push past my mental barriers and my physical barriers is one of the biggest things I think hiking has taught me. Another thing I love about hiking is, first of all, you get to experience these wonders of the world that have not only been formed over millions of years, but billions of years of changes throughout the planet that we don't even know a fraction about. And the only way to learn even, a little fraction about it is to go out and experience it. And in my short lifespan of maybe, human lifespan is 80 to 100 years probably, I want to try to experience as much of, the billions of years of transformations and changes the earth has gone through as much as possible. And I think the only way to really learn all that knowledge is to go outside and spend time with nature. And by doing that and by forming a bond with nature, not only am I able to experience that, I'm also able to naturally feel more connected to the environment. So when I come home, I feel more inclined to have a lower carbon footprint, to be more aware of my actions on the environment because I've already formed that bond with the environment innately. And I think that's something that every person has to experience from the self for themselves, and it can only be experienced by just building that bond with outdoors and just keep going outside.
Wow, you are so resilient, and I'm learning so many things from you, time in and time out, and you are a role model for me also. Having said that, do you have another plan to visit that region again?
Yeah, I would love to. There's so many different mountains there. Not only Mount Everest, but you have Lhotse, Nuptse. You have some of the biggest mountains in the world. I think a lot of people, when they think of the Khumbu region, they just think of Mount Everest, but you also have, I think, many of the uh, top 10 tallest mountains are actually in that region. And not only the mountains, but the people, the culture, the whole like Sherpas are some of the most resilient people you'll ever see and meet in your life. And I think being able to experience that was it's just life changing. That's the only way I can describe it. And it changes your perspective on a lot of things in your life, and you come back definitely a changed person. I also would like to keep training and hopefully try to climb one of those mountains one day. I don't know which one, but we'll just see where life takes me. But I want to keep challenging myself, and hopefully I'll be able to summit one of those mountains.
Let's see, we could do it together if possible, if time permits.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is great, Sanvi. You've been an inspiration for so many people, including me. And you kept on inspiring many, and I know I wish you all the best in doing these things really well in the near future. And let me know whenever you are on track. We would also try to follow you online so that we can amplify your work along with Suraksha also. So, what are you hearing from youth when you are traveling to these places, and what is their mindset? How they are connecting to environment as you see and hear during your visits.
I think people are just having fun, and I think that's the best part of all the amazing places that we have, like national parks that are so well organized that we can go and visit them. And when I see other youth there, when I go there with other kids my age, everyone's there to just have fun. And by having fun and by truly just immersing yourself in that experience, that's how you experience nature. That's how you connect with nature, not by forcing yourself or not by trying to go and go hike a trail just to hike a trail, but by truly just immersing yourself and having fun and having a good time. And also trying to learn more, trying to actively always trying to learn more, to experience more, to enjoy more, and to share your stories with others. I think one thing that I've noticed with a lot of the people I've met is they're all very much storytellers. They love sharing their stories from the other places they've been. And I think that's what's really creates a community in the outdoor community, and that's what keeps people traveling to different places. I've traveled to a lot of national parks just because at a certain national park, I'll talk to someone else and they'll tell me about this amazing experience and adventure they had at another national park. And I'll think, oh, I need to go to that national park. And I'll end up visiting that national park. And at that national park, I'll tell someone else about my experience at the previous national park. And they'll want to go and visit that national park. So I think just storytelling and sharing your experience with others and having fun and soaking in all the elements around you from the air, the water, the sunlight, the rocks, the soil, all the different elements around you that are different in every place that you go to. And I think one thing that I want to emphasize is that a lot of the times people feel that in order to connect with nature, they have to go to a national park or a state park, they have to go to a trail. But some of the best experiences I've had outdoors have just been walking my dog outside my house or just sitting outside on my hammock and reading a book while the sun is out. But in Dallas, I have to do it kind of in the evening because it's too sunny in the morning. But just sitting outside reading a book or cooking outdoors with my mom on the grill, or just doing little things outdoors. And those are the best times I have in the outdoors as well. So you don't have to visit a national park. You don't have to visit a state park. You don't have to fly across the world and go to Mount Everest. You can just go outside, breathe in the fresh air in your own yard, in your own front yard, backyard, and try to experience all the elements of nature. Take that in, take that time in for yourself. Put away your phone, put away all the distractions, and just focus on yourself and the outdoors. And I think you'll see a huge change in your life.
Thank you. You reminded me of my, visits to the nature also. I mean, outdoors, and I feel like centering myself again, coming back to the focus. Whenever I visit, nature, so that is really compelling and strengthening my inner core values. Not only the values, but also how I feel myself. Inclusive of the nature. I connect that way because we belong to that, right? So that also pushes me to do the work what I am doing today. Working with youngsters like yourself, and this is a very, very interesting personal thing for me also. So let's steer our focus towards your work experiences with senators, congresswomen, and men, and the areas of your focus while doing it. You may name some names if you are okay with that, so that our viewers would understand how deeply you are involved in some of the things, especially in policy making and other guidelines that are important. Being US seem to be a world leader in everything. So please.
Yeah. So one thing I would just say to start off with is the legislative route is always going to be a really long route just because there's so many different factors involved, so many different peoples involved, and obviously you're in the world of politics, which makes it 1,000 times more complicated. So I would say if you want to get involved in legislative matters, I would highly encourage it because every voice matters. And as someone who's living in the United States, it's important to get your voice heard. And the second thing I would say is it does take a while. So patience is needed because a lot of things in the legislative world take a long time to pass, take a long time to even get right sometimes. So persistence is key. And I think that's something that I've stuck with for the past couple of years. That's really made it so much more gratifying when I've seen the results of my work. Yeah, so I would say the first way that I got involved was through lobbying and sharing my story. I was able to go to Congress with a couple other organizations and share my stories of the outdoors with a bunch of congressmen and women. I think went to a couple senators' offices and a couple representatives' offices. And I talked about my experiences on the outdoors, my experiences on trails, and how important that was, not only in shaping who I am, but also in how I've been able to help others and how I've seen children change by spending time outdoors. And when I first went to lobby, I was aiming to get the Explore Act passed and also the Transit to Trails Act. And actually, recently, the Explore Act was actually able to get passed in Congress. And I think when I first started lobbying was around 2 to 3 years ago. So it does take a while, but it getting passed in Congress was super exciting. And now a bunch more kids are going to be able to get more opportunities to hopefully access the outdoors as well. Another time when I went to lobby, I was able to speak with the offices of Senator Chuck Schumer, who is really big in the Democratic Party, as well as speak to members of the Republican Party as well, and speak to people in their offices. And that time I was able to also lobby on the Explore Act and also help introduce a new bill called the Play Act. And this was going to help build more playgrounds. And this was really important because as children, some of the best ways to get outdoors is by playing on a playground. And there's not enough playgrounds being built in the United States. And a lot of times when playgrounds are being built, they're not being built in underdeveloped areas. They're being built in very privileged areas. So it's important to also build playgrounds in inner cities and build playgrounds where, you know, people might not think to build playgrounds because it's not as nice of an area. So I think it's important that we remember all children and build playgrounds in those areas. And also remember to build playgrounds with shades. Remember to build playgrounds with water fountains and all these other amenities that keep playgrounds safe for kids. So that's something we were really focused on, lobbying on. So that's what I lobbied on the second time I went to Washington. And I would say that other than going to Washington, something that's really important is to continue calling your representatives, voicing your opinions on bills, also emailing your representatives and senators, not only for the US Congress, but also your House of Representatives and your state Congress as well. Emailing your governor, emailing even your town. I was able to get involved with my mayors and I was able to work with my city council. So all those little things make a really big difference. And I would say if if it seems scary to, start emailing your representatives or calling your representatives, I would say start small and email your mayor or email your city council member that's assigned to represent you. And little things like that, just getting that conversation started and voicing your opinion because they are there to listen to your opinions because they are there to represent you in the end of the day. So voicing your opinion, talking to one of their staff members, telling them that this is your opinion on a certain bill or this is your opinion on a certain matter does make a difference. They do take it into account and they do listen to your voice and they will pass it along. So I would say if you start small and slowly start building up and soon you'll be able to see your work make a difference. For the past 2 to 3 years, I've been lobbying on this Bill the Explore Act, and finally, after a couple years, I was able to see it pass. So it does take time, but when your work finally pays off and when you see change being made, it just keeps motivating you to keep working on it.
Yeah, I echo with your comments. I personally feel, being apolitical on these things, especially on the environmental side, we all need to work together. And not many people even do not know that EPA was, initiated with the current government political party, right? So there are good people on both sides, but sometimes,
Exactly. Yeah.
things won't happen the way how we think or favor. That's the beauty of democracy, also, right? So
Yeah.
everybody should have a voice, and we have to respect that thing. And I would like to ask you again, with whom you work directly on these things, like congresswomen or congressmen or senators. Could you say some names on that and in which areas that you work closely with them, so that our audience, our viewers would know how deeply you are working in those areas, and you would inspire them, being working with those people and also having such an experience, so that they would also follow you. Maybe your teammate sometime, maybe supporting Suraksha also through you.
Yeah, so I would say for the people I met with people on a broad spectrum, everyone from Chuck Schumer to John Cornyn, who's a senator for Texas. I met with I met with so many, let me think. I met with Jasmine Crockett's office, who is a representative here in Dallas. I met with representatives from a lot of states. I would say I met with a representative in Florida. I met with a senator from Maine. I met with a lot of different people. And I think during this experience, you just have to meet with as many representatives and senators as you can just to get the word out about your bill.
Mhm.
I would say some of the important people say, well, I guess all of them are important because they're all passing the bill, but I honestly, there wasn't like a certain person that I focused on to try to get the bill passed. I try to just get my story out to as many people as possible.
Mhm.
Um, and since I'm still in the grassroots of things and I'm not yet at that level where I can go and speak directly to speak directly to a senator and work with them directly on the bill. The way I typically lobby is I work with an organization that kind of facilitates that for me, and then I go ahead and share my story and speak with them, and then they help facilitate kind of pushing the senator to get the vote up.
Smart way. Yeah.
Yeah.
In all directions, right. Thank you. And I would like to know from here, where do you want to take Suraksha, being a very active member locally from Dallas? What are your plans for the near future? We'll talk about long-term plans later in a different occasion, but what you got in your mind?
Yeah, so first of all, I would love to contribute in any way that I can to um, already existing programs you have to hopefully help, do my part in them and help make them even stronger and do as much as I can for them. I would also love to work on a newsletter to try to get more youth involved in Suraksha because I think so many kids would love to get involved. I know so many youth, and I know they would love to get involved with an organization such as this. And I think newsletters and getting the word out is really important. I think one thing that's really popular right now in every single space is podcasts. So I think that would be something really interesting to do, especially with an organization that is really developed like Suraksha. I think a podcast would really help with not only spreading the word, but also getting really cool different speakers on from all who are involved in all sorts of things, from being involved in the oil industry to being involved in the plastic industry to being involved in even cosmetics industry. There's different ways where we can improve the sustainability of every single industry, and getting people who are actively working on trying to make a difference and trying to be more sustainable in different industries, and who are working on trying to improve the planet and reach the UN climate goals, whether they even know they're trying to reach the climate goals or not, and getting them and hearing their stories and their path to success, I think would be really, really incredible as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for that future vision. And yeah, I'm also talking about some biological pathways to make cosmetics, etc., even antioxidants, where we could do innovation, entrepreneurship development, and technology commercialization. Because we cannot deal with chemicals, they are less evil, more or less equal to the fossil fuels anyway. So we need to alter the path that we are on using biochemical pathways. That's my wish in the near future. So we're coming to an end very soon. This year, World Environmental Day theme being beat plastic pollution. What are your thoughts on that? I've been active in this area and I've been interviewing, and I'm also involved in some of the organizations to prevent plastic use, especially single-use plastics, so on and so forth. And I'm also talking about PFOAs, etc., which are harming, and more importantly about the refineries, oil refineries, I would say, which are creating cancer alleys. So, what are your thoughts on beating the plastic pollution?
Yeah, well, I think plastic is an issue. I think what's happened to plastic and the way it's so overused, and there's big garbage patches full of plastic that are bigger than the size of Texas and oceans. Um, I think it really comes down to a pattern that we see within humanity. I think when it comes to inventions like plastic, when plastic was first invented, it was a great invention. You were able to do so much with plastic that you weren't able to do with anything else. But like humanity often does, we overused it, we abused it, and now it's seen as something really negative, which it is now because it's getting littered everywhere. Animals are dying because of plastic. And I think in order to combat this, first of all, we all need to be really mindful about how we use single-use plastics and trying to avoid single-use plastics, and not only trying to avoid it, but also remembering that if we do use it, to recycle and doing all the simple things that sometimes we forget about, just throwing a bottle instead of in the trash can instead of a recycling bin, and just really be mindful about those little things because they do make a difference. And I think moving forward as humanity and civilizations in general, we need to see things like plastic and realize that just because something works really well doesn't mean that we abuse the invention and we overuse it, because that's when you start getting problems and start getting giant patches in the ocean of plastic, have animals dying every day because they're ingesting plastic. having microplastics are being found at the top of Mount Everest now. I'm pretty sure I probably have microplastics in me too, which is super unhealthy, but that's just the way of life now. And I think we need to kind of see the bigger picture as well of how we have a pattern of overusing and abusing inventions that were meant to help us in the first place that are now harming us.
Oh, great, thank you. So uh, I did not want to steal the thunder here, but I just want you to break the news of your college admission. And I'm so excited for you for a reason. I'm going to tell you what it is after you say this to our viewers. Go ahead, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I will be attending Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia.
Great, thank you. So I'm personally also very much interested in neurology because I learned about neurotoxins, so on and so forth. So that's a very fascinating subject to know. And as you said, these microplastics are entering into our body. Now we are hearing it is they are reaching even into our brain and heart and lungs everywhere, even the placenta of unborn child. This is a tragedy. So I want to do something about that also. So perhaps we could also think in those lines where we could also figure out some pathways while you are learning certain things, and I can also share what I learned in my journey so that we can make a connected effort to educate people, right? Now we use many households still use these Teflon coated utensils for cooking, so on and so forth. They work nice, but again there is a blind spot, right? So we all need to explain people what is really happening in that particular area, especially these plastics and microplastics, PFOAs, etc. So, thank you so much for your valuable time today. And I know you would be very busy today with World Environmental Day celebrations. And congratulations for your achievement, getting into a great college. And I'm excited for you to listen from you in the near future on all the work that you do, and also looking forward to work with you to push Suraksha to the next level from US also. Thank you for all your service to the Mother Earth and engaging and inspiring many youngsters, including me. Thanks again. We'll meet again in the near future very soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for, first of all, this opportunity and also all that you're doing with Suraksha. I think it's a huge inspiration to me, and the work that your organization is doing is really, really going to be important for our future. And the difference you're making already is astronomical, I would say. And I'm really excited to see where the organization goes as well.
Thank you. As I usually say, we are all in this together. Thank
Yes,
you.
absolutely.
See you soon. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.